Lovely to see you and lovely to meet you. And I was impressed that the help library, in the little advertisement that went out, you had the picture with the 2 tuning forks. That's so great, because that's exactly how energy medicine works. Vibrational medicine is based on that principle of sympathetic resonance. Just a little bit of my background. I grew up in a musical household, so the idea of resonance is a no-brainer as far as I was concerned. So I pursued a musical career, and I did opera and was in the Western classical music world and performing. And then my life had a major turn, and I ended up going into the healthcare field. And for 12 years I did body work. I did massage, I did craniosacral, I did lots of touch healing kinds of things. And at one point then I started working with sound therapy. I was actually making sound into people's bodies, but this was in the 1980s, when sound healing was, unknown. There was nobody I could go to learn from in this respect. So I thought maybe I could channel it through my hands instead. So I ended up going into doing massage and things like that. After 12 years of it, I was getting kind of burnt out, and I wanted to explore more of, by this time there were some things having to do with sound that were out there. But after a few less than wonderful experiences with some of the people who were doing that, I began to realize that sound is probably the most powerful thing we have on the physical plane. And nobody that I knew of knew enough about it for me to feel confident about working with it with people, because everything I do, I have chosen to work with things that truly do not hurt. If the physician, first heal thyself and you do no harm. So that's always been my credo, so to speak. And I realize that there are many aspects of sound that can be harmful if they're not understood and worked with correctly. And I didn't really feel there was anybody out there that was using it in such a way that I could resonate with. So I was doing a seminar on a particular kind of energy healing. And at this time I had been thinking about getting something called a Rife machine. They were in the US, they're actually illegal, but they are frequency devices, and they've been around for a long time with wonderful results people have from using them. So I was thinking about this when somebody suggested a different kind of a biofeedback device. I'm now working with something called the Life System, and it uses frequency. Because everything is vibration. Everything in this world, that we see, has a vibratory component. We may feel like it's hard or it's solid, but within it, it is vibrating. And everything has what we call a signature vibration. And it can be measured, and it has been for many, many years. So I figured if they can take light from a star that has taken 1 million years to get to the planet and still be able to tell you what it is composed of by the frequency bands, something's going on here that we can use. So when I heard about a device that sends frequency to the body, then measures its response, and then based on that information can tell you what's going on in your body, I thought, that's for me. That was the direction I chose to go. So the life system is something I've worked with now for 15 years, and I'm still excited about it. It still gets me up in the morning to work with it. And I never get bored with it because I always find a new doorway that I can go through, that it begins to open me to, whether it be meridians and type of acupuncture, acupressure, that kind of thing, or homeopathy, or Ayurveda, or whatever. It's a new door that is opened for me. I have a little 8-minute video that I made about that, about this device, because there are so many questions people have asked me over the years, and I thought I would, because I got so tired of answering the same thing over and over and over, I made this little video so that I could share it with people, and then we could discuss following that. But before I show this to you, there are so many wonderful kinds of vibrational medicines that homeopathy, which is, well known here in India, is totally vibrational. And there are now some wonderful, really wonderful combinations that are put together, and that are so, their effects are so profound over just single remedies. There's also something called flower essences, and I'm sure you've heard of the Bach remedies. Well, Bach is probably the only thing available in India, but around the rest of the world, there are thousands of companies which have made essences out of millions of flowers. And there's a huge number of them. I work with probably 5 or 6 different companies, because each of theirs has something special that is way beyond Bach. So when you combine it with the Bach remedies, you get a much broader area of conditions that you can address. And since most of the time our physical discomfort or dis-ease is associated with our thinking and the rigidity of our beliefs, and that's not a fault, it's the way we grow up, and our culture has certain beliefs that are endemic to the culture itself. So by helping to clear some of these old beliefs, which allows new information to come in, many of the underlying causes for our disease conditions can be cleared, and you become much healthier and much happier. Along with this, with vibrational healing, many times it's really necessary to have a more continuous input of energetic information into your field to keep the change happening in a more rapid manner. Because you may come and have one session with somebody, and then you go back into your environment and into your old habits, and that just gets reinforced. So I also teach a system of touch healing. It's very light touch. It's a beautiful, beautiful system. In fact, it's the only thing that out of the 12 years of body work, it's the only thing I still do, and I still work with people, because it is so elegantly simple. A child can do it, but it's deeply profound. It addresses the electromagnetic system, but in a way that is so refined that you hardly realize something is happening until you realize, oh, my back doesn't hurt anymore, or my headache's gone in just touching a few little points. It's magical, but it's very, I wouldn't say scientific, because it was given by the founder. The founder was a man in Colorado in the US, and it was given to him by inspiration. He was a mining engineer. He blew up mountains for a living. He had absolutely no interest in healing whatsoever, but things would happen. It started in the 1970s where he would be in the presence of someone who was in great pain or great need, and he just knew where to touch them. And the things would happen and clear up. And he ran from it. He didn't want anything to do with it, but it was not stopping. So finally he surrendered and opened his house, and for 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, for 17 years, he worked with people. During this time, many of his neighbors asked him, begged him for him to teach them, but he didn't think it could be taught. So after 17 years, when he was having to consistently turn people away because he just couldn't handle anymore, people were coming from, hundreds of miles away to see him. He invited a neighbor to follow him and watch what he did and write down the patterns. And when a new person came, they turned the new person over to her, and lo and behold, it worked just as well when she did it as when he did it. So he knew it could be taught. And very quickly a foundation was established, and people were coming from all over the world to a little town in Colorado to learn this technique. And it's exquisite. We have been offering I am offering a weekend seminar of that this weekend if you are interested. This time we decided we were going to try a split, having one weekend have it a men's weekend and one weekend have it a women's weekend, because in India sometimes people are uncomfortable having a man touch a woman or vice versa. So we decided we would do that this way. It doesn't look like that is going to happen this weekend, but if you're interested, you can contact Integral Space, and we'll keep a list, and we'll contact you the next time I come and the next time we do a class. It's usually a 2-hour class, or I mean a 2-day class, from 10:30 to 5:30 the first day and 10:30 till 3:30 the second day. You receive a manual and a certificate, and it's very simple and beautiful. Oh, I'm all tied up here, so I can't give you a little demonstration. But if any of you have some particular pain or issue today, before I leave, I'll be happy to do a little bit on you so that you have a bit of an experience. Okay, so you have a bit of an experience. Okay, so let me show you this little video of the life system and how it works and what it actually means. Hello. Welcome to a new vision of health and well-being. The future is today. I'm very excited to be introducing you to the life system. This is a health technology well suited to the 21st century. The life system uses biofeedback to evaluate areas of potential stress in your body. It also initiates a process which balances multiple factors. This strengthens the healthy functions, harmonizes the areas of stress, and helps return you to a state of vitality and well-being.
The life system is a biomodulator. First, it measures subtle, reactive stress patterns. Later, it feeds back information which supports and entrains the body to refine its ability to regulate itself. This is a strong and non-invasive way for anyone to explore wellness issues. Let's take a look at how this is accomplished. Each and every cell of your body is extremely active. They are continually sending, receiving, and interpreting all kinds of subtle information. This is the way they talk to each other. This exchange of electrical information is vital for the functions of life to take place. If the information is relevant to the cell, it will be absorbed and utilized. If not, it will be ignored by the body's protective mechanisms. The life system joins the conversation by sending a bit of electromagnetic information to the body. It completes the feedback loop by recording the response. If the quality of the response is strong, weak, or disturbed, we will know if information between cells or systems is being interrupted or corrupted. The computer evaluates the information and turns this bioelectrical signaling into useful language for the practitioner.
So, are you ready for a life experience? We'll seat you very comfortably. The head, wrist, and ankle bands are the way the system measures the body's subtle responses. Through this interface box, a great deal of information is being translated into the correct waveform for the assessment and the later feedback.
The more recent life system model incorporates photo feedback by including tiny LED lights in the bands. This feature increases the clarity of the information between the system and the body, promoting even better cellular activation. A special sound module is an added component in this model and substantially expands the experience.
Now, just relax and let the life system gently and effectively evaluate the many parameters for a vital and healthy being. The result of the evaluation is like a snapshot of your very own personal electromagnetic field. During the assessment process, nearly 7,000 individual items in 39 different categories are being reviewed. In fact, we can see a variety of information regarding many factors which may indicate areas of stress and potential imbalance. Following a short discussion of the evaluation, we will begin one of the many possible feedback choices to direct and encourage the body toward a state of greater balance and harmony. The technician may choose an application which encourages a more balanced flow of energy throughout the meridian system. This is often a good choice to assist with the reduction of various types of pain. All of the feedback applications are ways to entrain the body to regulate itself.
The principle of sympathetic resonance is a key component of the life system. This stringed instrument is a good analogy of how the principle of sympathetic resonance works. It is an information exchange which is clear and complete and reinforces itself. We start by plucking one string. Watch the neighboring string which has been tuned to the same pitch. It begins to vibrate all by itself. This is the sympathetic resonance, or the exchange of information, and it operates throughout the natural world.
Engineers are very familiar with this principle. Anyone who has played on a swing uses this principle as well. There are very precise mathematical equations which can calculate the exact amount of force or information needed to send a swing into motion. Once the swing is in motion, it takes only a little bit of pushing to keep the swing going.
The life system is built with great precision as an integral aspect to its design. During the assessment and feedback processes, we are sending very clear and precise information to the body. This reminds it or entrains it, like the push on the swing, toward a more positive, vibrant, and healthy expression of life.
Some people may prefer receiving biofeedback using the life system's blanket option. Everyone can participate in this gentle type of stress management.
Pets love it, and even infants and small children can benefit from its use safely.
The reality is, 21st century life is filled with stress factors presenting great challenges to our bodies and to our minds.
The life system is a wonderful option to relieve that stress, to manage it, and to redirect that energy to a more vibrant, healthy, and happy life.
Thanks for watching this message, and we hope to help you achieve the most vital life possible. About it, now that you've seen a little bit more of what it does? I'm using the pad so you don't have things tying you up. That can be a little bit intimidating. And so you just sit against a pad, and we talk for a while. And the assessment takes roughly about 4 minutes. Oops, okay. And there. Then there's an enormous amount of information. We discuss the information for a short period of time, and I let you know what the most important things are that you need to pay attention to. And then we begin one of the basic therapies, and very often, just by balancing some of those few things, there's a huge shift that's happened. When I first started working with this technology, I worked with a friend of mine who does live blood cell analysis. Do you know what that is? Are you familiar with that? Okay. Most of the time when you have a blood sample taken and sent to a lab at a hospital, they put it on a slide, and it's dry by the time they actually look at it. This, they prick your finger and put it on a slide, and it's immediately looked at under a microscope. So it's live blood. So it has much more information than the dried blood. So we did several tests with some of his clients, with myself, with himself, and we found that immediately following the session, the blood was virtually perfect, very different from before the session. Over a period of time, when we tested for several days after that, it started to deteriorate and started to go back to what it was before. But by day 5, it had plateaued. It never went all the way back to what it was, but it wasn't as perfect as it was immediately following the session. But depending on what kind of a condition you're dealing with, if you do a few sessions close together, and usually sometimes 10 sessions is enough to correct a problem, we found that the blood never went back to the pathology of the original blood sample, and the correction stayed and improved with some continued sessions. So it's quite remarkable, because you don't have to go and have surgery. You don't have to take some of these really awful pharmaceutical medications that the effects of those sometimes are worse than the condition itself. And there's no side about them. They are effects. They try to minimize it by calling it side effects. But they're effects, plain and simple. If you get headaches from them, that's an effect. So this is one way to avoid that. I'm not saying that sometimes pharmaceuticals aren't an appropriate therapy for some conditions, and by all means, if that's the pathway open for you, then you do your best with them. But this is an opportunity to explore something else. So how are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing okay.
I have one question.
Sure.
Can we know the scientific concept behind this? Because as I understand from the video, the instrument you must be having some software.
Yes.
Related to, say, organ frequency, related
yes.
to our, also there must be a standard software and the values of a human being at its optimal level. So now creating a magnetic field by the way of that band and something. Either you must be, I mean, that instrument must be checking the electromagnetic frequency
Absolutely.
of a blood or a system, because a person will have various ailments. Maybe suppose liver problem, your stomach problem, your blood problem, and all these things. Now, at my optimal level, I have certain frequency of my organ which is operating. That is my optimum.
Yes.
But when I got deceased, that frequency changes. That frequency may be in the either fall, or maybe means active or overactive, or maybe underactive. Now, what is the scientific concept when you check it with the standard value? That is one part, that is the diagnosis part. And for a treatment, to come to that individual optimal level of the frequency of those affected organ, is it you induce some frequency so that my organ respond to that and come to my optimal level? That I wanted to understand. What is
You've got it. That's exactly the principle. We use the principle of entrainment by sending the correct information. So if you're
information means in terms of frequency?
yes, vibratory information. It's easier sometimes for people to think of it as information, rather, because sometimes the notion of vibration or frequency is not really understood. But actually the name life system, the L.I.F.E. stands for living information forms energy. Okay, so if your liver is functioning at this vibration down here, and it should be functioning up here, by sending the correct frequency, it's like reminding it. It should be vibrating up here. And just like if an instrument has been left out in the weather for a period of time, if it hasn't been completely destroyed, if you want to restring a sitar and put a new soundboard in it and things like that, it will take a while for it to stay in tune, because everything reinforces each other. The harmonics of our body are within the, if you know what a Fibonacci series is, a mathematical equation, our bodies are like that. They reinforce each other. The vibration of it is all set up so that each part reinforces the next. So if your liver is vibrating down here, and even though you remind it, the other things are not strong enough yet, and they're all vibrating at things that are out of whack too. So sometimes it requires more repetition of the information, of the vibration, to keep it up at the correct level. So entrainment, and here in India, the entrainment is, it boggles my mind to see how telepathic everyone is here. And then you see other aspects of it where, especially not so much in Mumbai, I mean, you see it here in Mumbai, but in some of the smaller areas where everybody carries the same kind of bag, and the idea of everyone, all the women wearing saris, it's the same kind of outfit, different colors and stuff, but it's the exact same piece of clothing. And so everybody, and everybody here as a healer, they do access bar, they do hypnotherapy, everybody's doing the same kind of therapies. And I found it a real challenge to, in fact, I've just realized I probably have to cave in and start using some of the buzzwords that everybody else will resonate to, because they don't quite get It just kind of goes when you don't use language that is part of the normal viewpoint of what healing techniques are.
Actually, it is the same thing to validating your souls.
Yeah.
When you validate your other soul, you are into that entrainment.
Yes. Yeah. So what I do, working with this tool, with the biofeedback, it's really bioresonance is what it is. But in the US, you can't use that word. So they have gotten around it by using the term biofeedback. And it is biofeedback because we are creating a feedback loop. But it's just a term that avoids the attention of the authorities. Although it is in process with the FDA, but it's sometimes takes millions of dollars and years before something will get through that system.
Now
So
FDA approved this?
it's been in process. Yeah, I don't know if it will be completed because it requires a huge amount of money to put it through if you don't have access to someone who can fast track it. It has been the TUV, which is the European certification. It has been certified 10 years back in the European Union. So it has that level of certification. It is from the US. It's a device from the US. It's sold all over the world, in fact, now, and it's been around since it was launched. The program was launched in 2003. So I had been, in the U.S. So I had been using a similar device for 4 years before that, but this is far superior to that one. So you had the right idea about the science behind it.
So your student, what does he learn? He or she in that workshop, and
No, this is not part of the workshop.
Okay.
If someone purchases the device, I do their training. Yeah, I do their training for them. But this is it's an expensive device, and it's does have a learning curve.
How much for this?
In the U.S., I'm a broker in the U.S. and it retails at $18,000.
What does it known as?
It's the life system.
Life system.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And in the U.S. since 2008, the company instituted a promotional system that usually gives at least $3,000 off. Sometimes it goes down as much, by another $1,500 or $2,000, but it's somewhere in that range, depending on the promotion that's being offered. In various parts of the rest of the world, it differs depending on the exchange rate to the dollar, and sometimes some countries have arbitrarily raised the price. I just heard something about somebody who's selling it in India, and I was shocked at how much they're asking. But this is not part of the weekend seminar. The weekend is the touch system of healing. It utilizes your own fingers. And that's it. That and the willingness and the desire to help another human being, and the willingness to touch. In fact, it has another name besides the tri-ohm biomagnetics, and then it's also called just touch, or butterfly touch, or bio-touch. There are some other groups that are using it, and they've changed the name. But you can recognize it by the story of the founder, who was a mining engineer, and who received it by inspiration. If you see that, then you know it's the same
What's
thing.
His name?
His name was Norman Cochrane.
Norman. And
Norman Cochrane.
K-A-R.
Cochran. Cochrane. Yeah. He is no longer living. but he was such a humble man. I had never met him before, and I went to the center to take the training, and I was in the kitchen of the dining area, and there was a man who was mopping the floor, and he stopped and introduced him, shook my hand and asked me how I was enjoying it, and I found out that was Norman. He was mopping his own floor, and that's how he was. He never wanted to put his name on it. It was because it was gifted to him. He had no.
He must have charged.
Actually, at the center, it was on a donation basis. Totally on a donation basis. Someone had donated it was an old hotel that they donated for the center, and things just kind of magically appeared. There was an attorney who showed up for healing one day, and he offered to put the foundation together, and it was quite amazing how things just kind of rolled and flowed into place for it. But it was purely on a donation basis for that.
So it depends on the practice, I would say, after attending your workshop, etc. Later on, like, what does the participant gets, like?
Oh.
He or she gets the healing, or he learns?
Both. Because in the workshop you work on each other. So you have the experience of receiving as well as giving. If people are interested, I can put together a specific evening for a or a day or time for a demonstration of it. Or if you want to come to Integral Space and have a short experience of it, I'm happy to do that. And there are several people at the center who have taken, Vishal has taken it, he can show you, and Mona, who owns the center, has taken it. So there are some people there who are versed in it, who know how to do it. So if I'm back down south, there are still people there that can give you an experience of what it is. Okay. So you have something going on.
Yeah, like here, of course, I don't know whether it's the correct problem or not. Like I don't have any problem with my leg as such. Otherwise, like I can walk, I can run. But then I'm here, like I get some pain while sitting. So I really am not able to find out what is it.
Okay.
I have shown it to the doctor also, and he couldn't tell.
Yeah. So does it run? Is it a dull ache, or is it a sharp pain,
I
or
can't make out like where it is aching.
Okay. All right. So something like that would require a little bit more time.
Okay.
And I'm happy to do that after here, because it would probably require doing some for the lower back and the base of the spine area, because all the nerves that feed the legs come out of the lower back. So that I would begin there and then work more locally. So that would be a little bit more extensive. Does anybody have a headache or a problem with their neck or their shoulders? That's a little easier to demonstrate. No? Nobody? All right. Lucky you guys. That's fabulous. How about you? Are you okay? Wonderful. We've got some healthy people here. You're doing great work if everybody coming. How about you? How's your neck? Is it a problem today? No? Very good. Very good. Okay. Well, any other questions? Anybody have? No?
That was great.
Yeah?
That's great. Yeah, something different that.
Yes, it is different.
Is it not similar to Reiki kind of?
Well, that's a good question, because Reiki is very popular here. With Reiki, they tell you, oh, it will go wherever it needs to go. Okay, well, this is much more specific because you address specific parts of the body. It is also, if you think of all of these energy healing things as like the radio wave bands, Reiki is at 10.6 on your dial, and Triome is at 19.5, something like that. It's a different frequency altogether. And when I work with people who have some very serious issues, sometimes I begin working with them by doing the Triome first, because it's a very refined energy, extremely refined. It goes very deep and is profound in the healing, but it's more gentle. This is fabulous, but it's a slightly coarser kind of energetic vibration. So if someone is in great pain or has some really strong issues, I usually start with that because it's more gentle, and I don't come from the school of no pain, no gain. I'm totally the opposite. If pain is an indication something is wrong. So I prefer to go at it. If I err, it's on the side of being too gentle. But that works its own magic, by creating a safe place for the tissues, for the body, the mind, the being to open and to receive. So that's pretty much what the Triome, I have seen true miracles happen with it. There was a man at the center. He was in his 70s. As a young man, he had been a boxer. And so later on in life, when he was in his 40s or so, he went blind. And he was coming to the center. He had been coming for 2 years. His wife came also, and they drove for about 200 miles each way once a week to come to the center for a treatment. After 2 years of their coming, then they didn't focus on his eyes. They did just a full body basic treatment. His vision started gradually returning. It first came just recognizing shadows. He began to be able to distinguish between darker and light. And then one time they were driving back and his wife pulled off and he said, "What is that?" And she said, "I stopped for the sunset." He was beginning to see colors. And then short time later, his grandson went to the university library and took Grandpa along, and he was sitting and he realized he was seeing shelves with books on them. And it came and went. It wasn't steady, but it was totally shocking when he saw himself in the mirror, and 30 years had passed. That was almost enough to make him not want to see. Yeah. But and I haven't kept up with him, so I don't know. This was in the early 1990s, so I don't know what it is at now. But also a man at the center had suffered with Spina Bifida. He was in his 40s, and he'd always had a very large swelling at the base of his skull. Spina Bifida is where the vertebrae do not close over the spinal cord. So it can be a big swelling at the base of either base of the spine or back of the head. Very gradually, over a period of time, this completely closed and became completely normal. I've seen issues with cancer being completely cleared, as well as people who've gone traditional cancer therapy way and they've had no hair loss, they've had no nausea, they've had no pain, even though they went through the whole radiation and chemo and stuff like that. So even as in conjunction with regular medical treatments, it will support that in a profound way. Same with the life system. I've used that as a support for people going through some other traditional allopathic.
Life system coaches or something, they do supporting other aspect also, because one is the temporary relief from the particular ailment by matching the frequency, but the situation may again reoccur because of your emotional trauma. which is the original cause of this thing.
Yeah.
So if your lifestyle remains same,
Yep.
it will reoccur after some time.
Yep. That's right.
So what
That's
to do?
one of the reasons I work with flower essences with people. I create personalized flower essence formulas to exactly address that particular issue, because you're absolutely right. You know, you can do something, but when they go back into their home environment, you see that a lot with things like autism, or schizophrenia, or some of the other mental things. If the family is not addressed,
Support system is not there.
yeah, well, if the support system might be there, but if their ideas are not changed along with the person, their projection of this person is reinforced and reestablished. I had an interesting incident where someone came to me and said, "Oh, my 16-year-old son, he's very, very sensitive, but he has this skin condition, and we're going to the doctor, and blah, 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 blah." So I gave a formula because he was the sensitive one, and to help him be more assertive and stand up for himself. Well, he went to the doctor and he told his mom that he wanted to talk to the doctor by himself. She called and she was so angry at me because the sensitive one had changed his role in the family, and she hated it. So, and with autism, sometimes there's a place called the Option Institute in Massachusetts, and they started out just because their son had been diagnosed autistic. They created their own program, and when I went there in 1994, their autistic son had just graduated cum laude from Harvard. So it was a whole program that then they expanded, and they did, but they found they could work with someone who had this condition, and within their process, the person would become virtually normal. Within a week of going back to the family, they would be back to their old situation. So they created a whole nother program to work with the family, because those beliefs and those habits have to be changed to support the new change in the one family member. So that's also one of the reasons why I love to teach the biomagnetics, the touch healing, to a whole family. If there's one member of the family who is really ill, everybody's anxiety, "Oh, do you need some tea?" or "Can I help you with this?" It makes it so much more challenging to the ill person, because they have to take care that, they are stressing about the stress they're putting on the rest of the family. So if you can involve the family in a very positive way of interacting with their loved one, it changes the energy field in the entire household, and it's a lifesaver.
It's most important.
Yeah, it's huge. It's really huge. So you're absolutely right. All of those things need to be addressed. There's no magic bullet, no magic pill, and even though you can raise the vibration, until the conscious mind is in line with that and understanding of the environment and how life happens, that it's quite possible to lose that insight when you don't have the extra support. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Great.
Yeah.
Apart from table spaces, how many other institutes or something in India they have these instruments?
I have no idea. I came to India because of one of my clients. I worked with her for 15 years, and when they retired from Silicon Valley, they bought a flat, and she had gutted it and wanted to have a party, and she wanted me to come, so she bought me a ticket to come. But she had a system, and and a couple of her friends also purchased. So they go back and forth. So I know of 3 or 4 people in India who have it.
I heard some other, I don't remember now, some other institute, they use, I don't know whether it is a life system, but they give, it is a biofeedback. Is it the same thing, or I don't know?
Well, probably the same principle.
Okay.
There are lots of systems. There are more coming out every day or every year.
Biofeedback is a concept, but they have an instrument which they check these frequencies.
Yeah.
So
Most of the
is it
time,
same thing or
it's the
different?
same idea,
Okay.
but most of the other devices do either one thing. They do an analysis, or they do some kind of frequency
one
therapy.
Is analysis, another is the therapy.
Yeah. This does both.
Okay.
And many of the other ones just do a single thing, like they just do the acupuncture points, or they just do nutrition, or they just do the rife frequencies, or they just do a limited set of frequencies. If you took all of the separate devices and added them how much you'd be spending, it would be probably $250,000 to get all of those, and you get them all in this. But that's not saying that those aren't good, but they're really only as good as the practitioner who's using it, because that's where the rubber meets the road, as they say. And the good thing about the Life System is that they created it as a smart program, meaning that even if the reactivity test that tests for 7,000 things is great, but it takes time to learn how to read it. So many of the other therapy panels actually have their own test. And if you just do the auto feedback, which addresses the top 3 things that are most out of balance, you give a good treatment. So even for a family, it's suitable. And when you think of the cost, at least in the US, of insurance, or even if you have insurance, what you would spend for one serious illness for one member of the family, it pays for itself. And it can be such an incredible adjunct. But that's why I teach the triome, because you can do an enormous amount, and it'll only cost you the time that it takes to learn it. And depending on where it's given, there may be or may not be a charge for it. So we got all bases covered.
I would like to share some insight with you.
Oh, sure.
Last time when I had this experience, the emotional parameters which were accessed by the system were anger, anxiety, love, kindness, and emotional parameters it tests so accurately. I'm so amazed by the accuracy of the system.
It's shockingly accurate.
Is it not like aura reading kind of, that they show those blocks and...
It depends on, there is an aura scan panel in there, but
in the system there is
yeah, there is, but you have to remember that in auras there are lots and lots of layers, because we are not solid. And in your aura, you can go actually through the body, but that also is an assessment, or a balancing, or chakra balancing.
Some companies, like in India, not for this life system, they scan the aura, and with aura related to all the organs, they predict you.
Right. It's an assessment.
But they call it by a different name, not by life.
Sure, of course.
It's scanning, aura scanning, and the predictions.
Yeah. But that's an assessment. Yeah. That doesn't.
It's not a therapy. It's assessment.
Yeah. Well, that is, there's a validity to that too. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. It's what do you have access to,
But what I heard, I may be wrong. In that, not life this thing, it's a aura system. There is a big question mark. like I may be wrong, if we really see, you create a electromagnetic field over a body either by your hand, some previous instruments by you keep your hand, create a magnetic field, and then you assess the aura. Now they have a portable instrument, but there is this thing, because under the electromagnetic field, the electrons which is in the body, I mean, it gets free. So there is a, like electricity, there is a flow of electron over the body, which is reflected in the aura, right? Because otherwise there is no, it's a mainly electron.
Right.
Now, in the atmosphere, there are major, this thing is nitrogen and oxygen. Nitrogen may be 70, 72, oxygen may be 20%. Now, the color which is produced by the aura, it is claimed by the software as different color, like holy color, say white, green and all this thing. Now, the color is produced by a photon. Without photon, color is not produced. Now this electron, when it collides with air, adjacent air, the major one is nitrogen and the oxygen.
Okay.
So therefore, their color of the photon is major, say nitrogen, suppose if it is a brown. So 70% of the color should be produced brown.
Okay. And what is your question?
See, question means the color we get in aura.
He is telling that because of our atmosphere and the gases like nitrogen and oxygen, and
so major color should be that of photon.
I don't see auras, I don't read auras, I don't deal with auras, because exactly, because there are so many questions about it.
I'm not saying that reading is wrong. But the software which gives the color, that you have a green light, you have a white light, that is the divine light. So this is black and this thing. So there is a big question.
I don't know how those devices work. The Aura program on here, I only use as a demonstration. If I'm doing, I might do it before I run the scan, and then I might do another one at the end of a session, and then you can see. And usually in the before a session, there are all kinds of scattered colors. By the end of the session, it's very calm, very uniform. So people can see that something has happened.
Do you tune yourself before starting this session?
Do I do what?
Do you have to tune yourself? Like calming yourself?
Well, I've been working with flower essences, taking them myself for almost 30 years, and I do meditation, and my teacher is a clairvoyant mystic whom I've been working with for 28 years or so. So I used to think that I had to do that, but I haven't found that to be necessary, because
now it is attuned.
I've grown and changed also, through this. Yeah. You need to leave?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Thank you all for,
It was